saw this newspaper article in the Bulawayo Chronicle in Zimbabwe in 1984 when I was a kid, and it was first artificial heart in man. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I'd be in Arizona at the birthplace of that and running the program. I became the chief medical AI officer in the 6 hospital network in Arizona, and we have an AI lab. What we're doing in our lab is creating a digital twin of you from the omic level, which is molecules, all the way up to how you function and how old you are and what your risk factors are. There's only, 1,500 weeks left in my life. So every moment's important.
Thank you for joining. I'm really excited about this conversation with you.
And me too.
You've been amazing to talk to, getting to know you. And one of the elephants in the room, you haven't really talked much yet, but one of the elephants in the room is going to be your beautiful accent. Would you mind kind of starting with where you're from and, how you came to that beautiful accent and, what brings you to our part of the world? And, that's a lot, but, love to hear your story just to kind of jump in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, privilege that you asked. And I had a boarding school education in the United Kingdom, and my dad was an ambassador, and I grew up in Africa until I was very young, and then flew off to the United Kingdom to a place called Winchester College. And it was a really cool place. It was a 14th century set of buildings after the Second World War. And most of my peers and colleagues who were with me were really much cleverer than I was. And they were called scholars. And if you think of the Harry Potter scenario with cloaks, that's who they were. And the guy that was there, remember, he was from Armenia. He was 14 years old. And he was only there just to learn English, but he was an astrophysicist. And that's the kind of the people that I was kind of growing up with. And so I stayed in the United Kingdom for 25 years and did my medical school there and went to university there. And then I was starting to become a house officer and a senior house officer and a resident and a fellow equivalent in the US. And I wanted to do heart surgery. And so I started doing a PhD in learning how to do pig to baboon heart transplants. And I got a Winston Churchill scholarship and a medal from the Queen. And then I came over to Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And it was like first exposure to the US, living on the tundra on the ice.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, but what amazing people.
Yep.
And actually it was my first touch, if you like, off the Mayflower onto US soil.
Right.
And it was really lovely. And so, and then I met this amazing French girl. And then I had to decide, was I going to stay and go to the United Kingdom where my life was all set? Or was I to redo my life, get retrained as an American surgeon, which frankly was the choice I made and was the best decision I ever made because Americans really know how to operate. And I had to redo 3 or 4 years of residency at Harvard at the Brigham. And then it was really, really worth it because even though it was really hard work, it instilled more discipline than I've ever had as a surgeon. And I think gave me really good grounding principles for trying to make rational decisions as a surgeon. But also I was exposed to amazingly cool people like Atul Gawande. I was his chief resident who wrote the book Complications, and amazing people like Monica Bertagnoli, who is the director of the NIH right now. So she's an amazing lady and love to operate with her. So sorry, I just went into a little bit of my lifestyle, kind of like my life story. But then I hope that that tells you a little bit about my accent. So my accent is a little mixed. It's not truly British, but it is. I grew up in Zimbabwe,
Wow.
and I went to a school there which was called Christian Brothers College. And but before that, I was actually in a Jewish school, and I learned how to read Hebrew, read the Torah, um, and then I came up to um, this Christian Brothers College. It was a Catholic school, and then soon after that, I went into um, coming up here to the United Kingdom.
Wow. That's crazy. That's awesome. Now I'm going to say this. I am friends with a cardiologist here in Florida. His name's Mark, and we play golf together. And he's crazy. I mean, he's crazy, but he's brilliant, and he's kind, and he's also gentle. So my exposure to somebody who's sort of in your world has been a really good one. And I'm proud. I'm proud to know him. If I'm candid, it's something about knowing a physician and being friends with them, because the way I grew up is we looked up to and revered physicians, especially those that were doing heart surgery. So I'm really proud to have you on. This is a real pleasure. And so thank you for telling your story. It's really interesting. So I imagine you have a passion now that you've, gathered all of this, great intelligence and experience and a beautiful wife, and, you've got something really wonderful. What are you doing with your energy? What are you focused on now? What's exciting you? What do you hope for in the future?
Um, they're really nice questions. I think the key things are to focus on how to advance surgery, and I think advancing surgery um, with new tools. And it's not just about innovation in surgery, but there's three key areas. One is in robotic heart surgery, and the second is in artificial hearts, which is why I came to Arizona. And I think that the third thing is also in artificial intelligence
Mhm.
and artificial. So those are the three kind of areas that I feel, um, make you, and I'll talk you through them. So,
Sure.
um, why? So, just to say, I'm a heart surgeon. I'm active every single day, and we do quite a lot of. I do about 300 to 400 cases a year,
Wow.
uh, and I have we can't do that without an amazing team and amazing partners and an amazing wife and family.
Right.
And I think, first off, yeah, I'm a family guy.
Yeah.
And so I think my family comes first, and everybody who works with me, their family comes first.
Yeah.
So it's really important to make sure that your principles are correct. Otherwise, you could just work like a wild animal and not for any purpose, you know?
Yeah.
And and I think that's probably why you're so endeared to your cardiologist friend,
Yeah.
because they're very good people. Some of them are my very good friends, and they're also good counselors. And so I decided to come to, after going to from the Brigham to Columbia, New York, to do all my super training. I decided to do artificial hearts because I loved them, and I actually dreamed I wanted to be a pilot in Arizona when I was growing up. But I saw this
Wow.
newspaper article in the Bulawayo Chronicle in Zimbabwe in 1984 when I was a kid, and it was first artificial heart in man. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I'd be in Arizona at the birthplace of that and running the program
Wow.
one day, and that was me. And then I came to do that, and it was honestly the best thing I've ever done. And
Wow.
so we started doing artificial hearts, and did the first, the smallest artificial heart in North America in 2016. And I started also loving the technology of minimally invasiveness of doing these types of operations, and started thinking, okay, how can I do it more minimally invasively with better tools? So I started learning how to use the Da Vinci robot.
Yeah.
and started doing, and I'm currently the only robotic heart surgeon in Arizona. And so lots of people started coming. And I did the first 10 robotic implants of half an artificial heart called a left ventricular assist device. Uh, Minimally invasively, we did the first 10 in the world. And then I started doing bread and butter cases. And I also had a research lab, and I was doing research on at a NASA grant, and we were building bioreactors to grow new organs. And that was really cool until you realize that we're very, very far away from that.
Okay.
And because the heart transplants there was such a shortage in heart transplants. And so we tried to create a new supply by growing new organs and even using printers to try to print new organs. But that
Wow.
didn't have the integrity or the durability to grow. And then I said, okay, when just before COVID hit, the University of Arizona was going down. Lots of political and financial reasons, and really good people there. And it was very hard for me to move from there. And I came to Scottsdale, and I flipped from a wet lab to a dry lab during COVID, and created an artificial intelligence lab because I thought, would it be really cool to affect many more lives than the one or two I operate on every day? And the big instigator for me was my wife, and she's a plasma physicist. She's definitely the brains, and as essentially was a very big key figure at MIT, and she is French, and we have 4 kids, and she basically does more hard work than I do. And she inspires me, and she instilled in me some seeds of this idea or concept called artificial intelligence. And then I thought, okay, well, let's see how we can apply it. How can we translate it? How can we bring this to the bedside? And I became the chief medical AI officer in the 6-hospital network in Arizona. And we have an AI lab. And I think trying to be somebody who can you've got to do something with true ethics and good governance. And you have to have good people around you, or people who are better than you around you, to actually build and grow something that's of any sort. And I think that was really key in trying to, there's people who I work with who are co-founders of Google Cloud, and we've created various startups and various foundations to do AI literacy. We have an academy, we have a journal, and we have very, very cool kind of sophisticated tech that is very exciting for patients and physicians and clinicians who want to make a better difference to their patients in the modern era. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how things have evolved.
Wow. What a story. That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, for some reason, the first question that comes to me is it something that you can sort of translate into other organs besides, using just for the heart what you're creating?
Oh, absolutely. That's fundamental.
Great.
Just because I'm a heart surgeon doesn't mean I'm just the caveman of the heart. I can do that. Right. But I think it's the whole ecosystem that you build, and that has consequences for people with diabetes, people with cancer, people with atrial fibrillation, people with strokes. How can we predict that? The holy grail is to predict things like that.
Sure.
And, Apple and Google and all the big tech companies are coming out with sleep apnea gigs on their watch, or atrial fibrillation predictions on their watch. But it's not truly clinical grade at this time. It's currently there's some small studies out there, but it's with various nuances, but they're still toys. And to build that kind of grounded gravitas of uh, applied artificial intelligence, I think you have to uh, verify the data and algorithms in a bona fide hospital setting where you have safety rules. And what I love about AI in healthcare is that it's traceable and trackable. These are not my words.
Mm-hmm.
These are my colleague's words, Nick King. And that's what inspired me to think, that's exactly how I operate every day. I'm accountable. It makes me traceable if I make a mistake, so I can actually go back, but I can learn from what I've done. I failed safely, and we can improve the algorithm to say if it's your mom or your dad, right, or your family member. And so I kind of like that concept. And so now we're adopting it and building algorithms in various different organ systems, whether it's kidneys, diabetes, orthopedics, imaging for all different modalities. And we built these little agents. So it's called an agentic workflow. And you build this 4-dimensional picture of a patient. And you imagine this. In silico, what we're doing in our lab is creating a digital twin of you. From the omic level, which is molecules, all the way up to how you function and how old you are and what your risk factors are. And so we're building these risk scores. We're working with really big societies to build them. And obviously the cardiac stuff is happening first because for some reason that's the obvious thing I would start with. Yeah. Because it was easy, something I knew.
Wow. Man, I had no idea that was going on. That's kind of mind-blowing to hear for the first time. Now, because AI is, you're kind of in the lead here. It's going to learn a lot from you, correct? Like specifically from you. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility, I'm sure, to feel like this tool is going to take from you and then, learn stuff, but it might gather a lot of information for how you do things, which, I'm happy to hear, but, it's like a lot of responsibility, you feel that accountability.
Well, it comes with a lot of rules, and it's nothing different than how you would just practice good medicine. You would abide by rules. You would abide by principles to see. Think of it as machine learning is like you're on autopilot in your car. You put the car on and on autopilot, but your hand's still on the steering wheel. Yeah. And you're still driving and you're still accountable. Yep. It's not fully autonomous and probably won't get there for a very long time in healthcare because you always need to have humans in the loop, humans on the loop and humans in the loop. Difference is that the experts can be on the loop, and I think things won't change because there's always going to be patients in the loop. Yeah. And so this bookmarked person to person with this internal algorithm in between always goes back and forth. And so you've got to always try to reinforce the learning, and that's one of the algorithms to reinforce your learning with feedback. And so you have to, it's not just me who's imposing this upon other people. Sure. It's the system which is already up and running. And it's just how we're approaching problems, which is a little different, a little smarter, and with a lot more, I think, transparency and ease to. But you have to have certain rules so that this doesn't run away and hallucinate or cause false perceptions of what a patient has. And that's why you need to be grounded with people who are better than you, whether it's in data science or whether it's in the domain of the organ that you choose to do these things in.
Sure. I'm a new CEO, but I've got 2 companies that I've started up. And putting people around me is the best thing I can do for the organization, for the company. And it's not easy to find the right people and trust the right people. But it will, make all the difference in the world. I think that, the responsibility that you're taking, number one, I think it's a big thing for somebody to step up and say, I want to go there into the frontier. I'm not scared of it myself, as a CEO. I don't know what's coming. I get a little bit excited by the idea that I'm going someplace where nobody's ever been before. We're just doing an app, and I'm just doing this humans of healthcare thing, but I still feel that feeling like I'm going somewhere and I want to have the best people with me possible, because there's going to be a place that I can't see around the corner, whether that's with investors or, the business side of it. But yeah, I'm with you. Having great people around you makes all of the difference in the world. And, that's even talking AI, right? That's the cool part about what we're saying is that principle still holds true with AI.
True. And I think it's simulating what we're doing is something, one of the cool projects that we're doing right now is looking at human behaviors to create synthetic personas to create how people think and behavioral patterns to make right decision choices for certain things that we would do in our life. So, for example, how does a physician look at a patient who's got diabetes and refer them on to an angiogram or a stress test to uncover their risk or burden of coronary artery disease? And how does that algorithmic choice go, and can we duplicate that? And we're finding that with more refined algorithms, you can create a synthetic persona to actually mimic that behavior. And that's what is exciting and interesting, because in silico modeling would allow you to do that, but you can't do that without experiences like yours or mine.
Right.
And you have to have an open mind and be aware that if you fail, that's okay. And as long as you limit the collateral damage to just the work rather than any human, then that's okay, which is why we're fascinated with the in silico platforms that we're building and how applied or real world they are and how valuable they are in terms of bringing it to a bedside or a patient or a workflow or an efficiency within a hospital system. And so they are all interesting to a certain degree, but there's only 1,500 weeks left in my life. So every moment's important. And, you've got, this is why I'm a little bit more relaxed, knowing what my time's going to do and what I'm going to do in that time and what I have planned and, or not. And, I'm pretty organic when it comes to interactions with people. So, I try to learn a lot from what other people are doing, what other people are saying, and keep an open mind about me trying it out, so how I can be or improve myself. So
Sure.
I assume you're the same.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This episode is brought to you by Downtime Trace.
In the world of medical imaging equipment, downtime is costly. Finding the right service options and determining if they are available shouldn't drain energy from medical professionals. Every day, healthcare workers face unique anxieties. It may seem small to some, but not knowing which local service experts are available, their qualifications if they're competent, when they are available is an unnecessary energy robber. With Downtime Trace, you can easily book local service technicians and get real-time notifications on your phone, similar to those you're accustomed to from mobile apps in your personal life. Once on site, service technicians capture a video of the problem they observe, diagnose the service needed, and provide a clear service plan with an estimated labor and parts costs and completion time. Familiar technology matched with decades of experience, track parts and service progress, and get the right updates when it makes the most sense. Once the service is completed, view comprehensive service data and rate their performance. Technicians gain greater autonomy by choosing independent jobs, while Downtime Trace ensures they receive payments within days compared to the many months that typical payment terms take. Downtime Trace ensures seamless communication, better and faster compensation for independent technicians, and complete transparency in service management. Download Downtime Trace now and take control of your medical equipment service.
Yeah, I mean, humility helps a lot for me. I don't know what it's like to not have it, but I'm religious. I'm a Christian, so when I think of people, I try to think of them as their Jesus, right? And so it helps with the humility, and so it does open me up to listening and being curious in a different way. But I've found that served me pretty well, I think, throughout my career. It's probably one of the reasons I'm successful. But it's something when I try to describe it to others, it's like, well, I don't know sometimes how to say it other than the fact that I'm genuinely curious about what you say. And I want to understand how you feel, because those two things together are interesting to me. And they're never the same from person to person. So the curiosity helps a lot, I think. But the humility it's just there. I don't know how to, I don't know how to differentiate that for folks sometimes, especially if they don't understand what humility means, and why it's important.
But fundamentally, I think, irrespective of religion, because I learned about Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and Catholicism, and I think my parents were very open-minded about exposing you to that. But having a belief system nourishes the soul on a spiritual level, and I think that's important. But fundamentally, being a good person is important when you have to make very hard decisions in your life and very hard decisions for other people, and without a God complex. And that's important but you also need to help people not take the burden onto their shoulders about things that are happening with their families. So I think, and that's same for you. I think when you're making hard decisions as a CEO, right? You've got to try to make sure that it's for the greater good.
Yes, absolutely. All the time. And it never stops. It doesn't, go to sleep. It's always, it's always there. But, like you said before, I found it's really helpful when I find people. My wife is an example. I'm totally in love, which helps, but she helps me a lot with, she's smarter than I am. She's a better person. And it's just, so I get to measure myself every moment I'm not at work against that. And it helps. I mean, so what you said about family resonated with me, and that I know it makes me better, so, I mean, it's nice. I mean, I talk to some people who are kind of at the forefront, who are successful, and there's a common thread there that they tend to look out and give credit, and then they look at themselves when things go wrong and kind of in the mirror sort of thing. And I know that's probably an age old, adage, but it's something I've seen, when I talk to people now that I get this opportunity to talk to really cool people, like I see that in them. And then some, when I don't, I kind of walk away with a different feeling, but it's something that others around us, I think, if they're genuine, they'll be, they're honest with themselves. They'll recognize as a difference between a good leader and a bad leader. And then I think they also give differently, whenever you show up the way that we need to show up. And I mean, you need all of that you can get. So, I mean, from a strategic perspective, you're doing, I mean, what's necessary, frankly. It's almost like you have to be the way you are in order to get the best out of the people that are around you.
Sometimes that's true in the operating room, when time matters, when a heart is stopped in front of you.
Right.
And it boils down to absolute, rigidity. But you can deliver that rigidity with kindness.
Right.
Or firmness. And at the same time, the most relaxing part of my whole day is when the heart is stopped in front of me. Wow. And I'm in my zone. And I feel I'm in my sancto sanctorum with the people I want to be with, and I'm performing, my best work. That's awesome. And I think that, that feels good. And at the same time, we've got some really good music playing. Yeah. And it's the most relaxing part of my day, frankly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it really is the best moment. And then the curious part of my day, which is really exciting, is when I'm doing things like this, or I'm, thinking more creatively, but also engaging on solving problems in a different way and having healthy conversations, discourse. And I think arguments are healthy with people if they are civil and not derogatory.
Sure.
And if people can accept other people's perspective, it's just kind of like the political situation in my country right now.
Right. I know.
You know, which is sometimes so dichotomous for what good people think or do or believe and act, and sometimes that can polarize them into not necessarily being the best in what they do. And I think you want to take away all of that wrapping and just find the core of that goodness in that person to try to bring the best out of them. And I think that's what happens in the operating room. It's what happens in the clinic. It's what happens in my lab. And I think you just sort of sit back, and as the years go by, and you realize that there's more of this coming here, and you have that too. You become a little bit more reserved in your response and a little slower and less reflexive, but more reflective in your responses to people when people are angry. And so it's okay. It's okay.
Completely agree. It's helpful to slow down like that. For me, I've had tyrants around me. I was a police officer in New Orleans for a couple of years, so I got to experience, chaos, and it's like everything compared to that is just business. But these are the interactions that I didn't expect in my life. I'm so thankful for them, but it's the proof. Like I'm sure you're experiencing that. There are so many great surprises around the corner. Getting caught up in, a tyrant that might be in our midst is not something that's worth, fretting over. And I'm very curious about the AI aspect and, how, I love robotic surgery too. I have a lot of executives who, want that technology to come to their, regional hospital. They see the value, and there's also value to them in the excitement that surrounds robotic surgery. And so it's interesting to think about the robots with AI, but I can say this from, my general public perspective is, I don't sometimes know how to connect AI, in simple terms for, with, it's complex. How do you make it simple for the general public to sort of see, hey, this is what's so cool about where we are, and here's sort of that step that we're going to as a next step that you can envision. I think, would you mind? I know you've kind of talked a little bit about it, but how much you explain it to somebody who is just has no clue, like even what a robot is, robotic surgery, and then how AI is going to sort of play into that world.
Yeah. What car do you drive?
A Tesla.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
So you're in your Tesla, and you got already automatic gears, correct?
Yeah.
And when you go onto autopilot, so think of the Tesla as the robot,
okay,
and think of the brains as the autopilot.
Okay.
And the autopilot has sensors, it has function, it has ability to slow down and speed up. And it also has the ability to know what's around you in 4 dimensions. So 3D space and speed, time, 4th dimension. So imagine now the robot is a really cool piece of equipment, which is my Tesla. Think of it as a tool taking me somewhere, i.e. the patient. And I need to do their mitral valve surgery. Now think of me training that robot or Tesla with a map to go somewhere. That's my GPS software. And my GPS software plans my route. So if I want to be a safe surgeon, I want to learn from the best people who've done mitral valve surgeries before. And the mitral valve is a valve in the heart that I love to operate on. It's the holy grail for me.
Okay.
And if we were to operate on that, we would put the ports in, put the robot in, dock it next to the patient, and then we would ask it to apply our GPS software. That GPS software would create a flight path for that patient from their CT scan.
Mm-hmm.
And that CT scan or echo, ultrasound of the heart, would tell us what the anatomy is. But all the world expert's brain has now trained that robot to make you make less errors. How would that do that? Well, if I'm putting the robot in and using the arms to go into your heart, and I went off by 1 or 2 millimeters, one of the world experts, I feel, in robotic heart surgery, who's trained millions of people or thousands of people, and his brain is now telling me to come this way. The steering wheel would vibrate, right? If you were in the wrong lane.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, guess what we're building? That's probably what we're building. It's called lane assist, right? So I hope that analogy describes to you how, in common terms, we would use robotics in the future with AI. And that's currently where we're going. So the kinematics, or how the robot moves its arm in space, related to the computer vision that we see, we'll build our flight path software and tell you, don't go there. That's where the aorta is. Or don't go there. That's where the diaphragm and liver is. Go there, go to the valve, open up the heart and go inside, and now fix it. And I would fix it this way because of this patient's anatomy. Or I would fix it that way. So now we reduce medical errors. Patient gets a quality result better than I would, and it would augment my learning and my delivery to the patient at the bedside. So I hope that explains it in simpler terms.
It's fantastic. It helps me a lot. I mean, even my wife's Toyota has lane assist, or you start going, and it's safer. It's much safer. And so, there'll be a day where we don't know what it's like without it. But for you, like, the upside there is unbelievable. For the patients, what an awesome thing. That really helps. Thank you. It really helps. So what's next? I mean, with Tesla, they got different versions coming. What are you? Is there anything that's that's a big one? I don't want to just run past that. But like, what's in the future for us?
I think it's to do with creating systems which work with other systems within an organism or an ecosystem that allows you to be more efficient, but also works to using software or AI, and computing power is getting bigger and bigger, but to build an ecosystem. That ecosystem would affect people who do general surgery with, and putting all those algorithms in robots is just one thing. But think about all the efficiencies, supply chain, security, cameras, loading dock is coming. People would go there, time would be saved. We would be automating data extraction, which currently humans do, which is a boring part of their life. We wouldn't be missing or basically using evidence-based applications, which would be vetted thoroughly to highlight and improve levels of quality of care. Because why wouldn't somebody who's out in the middle of Europe not have the same quality or design of delivery of care as you have in the US? And, there should be equity. And I think this type of kind of thinking minimizes the inequality of what technology does. And I think technology is democratizing, and technology can bring us to building these platforms where we're doing that. We're doing that with our startup, whether it's in the Middle East, where we have a twin lab our startup's called Atari, like the game. The 2600, which I'm sure you and I played. So it's an applied and translational AI research institute, and we have a twin lab in Riyadh, and one of my friends there is a robotic surgeon, and the chief there, he has an AI lab with me, and we're creating new algorithms, new ways to do things. We're working with industry like Nihon Kohden, big Japanese company, like Philips and GE, and we're able to now use their biosensors to create this ecosystem which allows us to build on a mass scale and allows us to deliver that kind of homogeneous care to a lot of people. So I think part of that is with the appropriate clinical governance rules and regulations that are highly stringent in the US. The EU, Europe, has been progressive in the regulation of AI because they're a little bit more relaxed, but they have come forward with charters which we're trying to adopt. And I think industry is our friend. They allow us to do things and accelerate the pace of, everybody wants to be an open AI. But everybody still has to use a Microsoft PC because it grounds you. But everybody has to have competition like Apple,
Sure.
to keep the innovation spinning. And I think China, South Korea, Japan are innovating immensely in the space. And I think that's going to bring forward new ideas, new concepts, peppered in from their culture that allows us to adopt it into ours. And I think this mass transformation is going to happen. And it's just a matter of time. And I think if that happens, we've got to adopt it. We've got to accept it. We've got to see if it's good for us or not. But also be mindful that industry wants to make money.
Yeah.
And we want to take care of patients.
Yeah.
And so we have to be good shepherds and standard bearers for what we believe in, but also the standard on what we deliver for our patients, but with ultimate stringency that it has to be of the highest quality. Because if this was your mother or your father,
yeah,
what would you do? What would
yeah,
you want?
Yeah, man, that is wonderful. I mean, how exciting! This is amazing. I mean, to hear it first time from your lips is really really cool. I know the people who watch this are going to be really appreciative to have that information. We've got all sorts, the spectrum of our audience is, patients, obviously, nurses, physicians, healthcare executives. And for us to bring information to them through storytelling has been, it's been good. It's been fun. We get great feedback from how we present these data, these details. And, what I love about it, it's not pretentious. It's just, they listen to the story first, but then, like I just did, I learned something that is really cool that, we can look forward to, happening right now. I mean, you got your finger on the pulse of the entire world with everybody's best interests, at heart, which I think is great. Like you said, whether it's China, South Korea, Japan, they've got different ways of attacking problems. And capitalism is a different way to attack a problem, and it can be really useful to think about. Like you said, I love how you said that. Let's include industry. Let's be safe as we do this, but yeah, let's include industry because if we can get them on board, then we can scale this thing. We can get the word out. We can market it. Get to people in all sorts of different ways. So I really appreciate you doing this. This is quite an honor for us, to have you on, and I'd love to follow you and maybe, do this again,
Sure.
in 6-12 months and just kind of check in and see how it's going.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And also vice versa for you. So I'd like to know how you've grown and what things you've learned that you can share with me so I can learn.
All right.
And I think that's about, what's important about friendship is about how you can learn from each other, but also how you can grow together. And I think that's always nice when everybody's interested in a certain perspective of the human kindness, but also innovation. And I think you're innovating, and you are touching many more lives than I would by sharing things like this and how you extract it out of people. And I think that's very humbling. And it's I learned from that too.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're building an app I'm excited about. It's for medical imaging equipment to match the providers with the service options that exist in a way that, doesn't really happen right now. It's like I want ride shares / food delivery, thinking about that, whatever your favorite one is, to be able to press a button as a radiology technologist and have people, come to you with their solutions and, instantaneously. That's what we're focused on right now. And it's been fun. I mean, you learn a lot about the technology and, sort of the way, these things work, but also how to market, something, and then cool different ways to get your message out. But man, I'll tell you, it's been hard to simplify that message, to a point to where people will, receive it the way that you hope that they do. And so I'm spending an exorbitant amount of time on that. But I think it'll pay off. I think, putting the effort into things like this, where we can talk about things, simplify them, and then, get some feedback and then, try it again.
Well, I'd love to play with it when it's mature,
Oh,
and you
cool.
want me
Yeah.
to. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd be happy
I
to.
think always good to have an open mind and also
Yeah.
see what you can learn
Yep.
and how we can help.
I will shoot it to you.
Yeah, that'd be
To
great.
you. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate the time again. It's a pleasure getting to know you. And I'll shoot
Thanks.
this. I'll send this over to you once we get it
Okay,
edited, and let me know what you think. And we'll try to get it out in the next like 6 weeks or so. And
that's great.
we'll be in contact.
What a privilege. Thank you very much for your time and your kindness and
Pleasure.
inviting me.
My pleasure. Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. Take
Thanks,
care.
Danny. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Hey, this is your host, Danny Mobley. Thanks for watching Humans of Healthcare. Please subscribe below for more great interviews.